All right, we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Camille Khalifa. I work over at Apogee and lead our instant quoting team here. We're excited to have our friends over at USLI, Connor Dunn and Chris Lavelle, with us today to discuss our new and improved EPL product and demo our instant quoting platform. So with that, I will pass it over to Chris to get us started.
Thanks, Camille. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Camille said, my name's Chris Lavelle. I'm the EPL underwriting leader from USLI. I've been running the book since 2012, and we've been very busy the last few years updating our form, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So why don't we get started? Introduction-wise, excuse me, agenda-wise, we're going to talk about. We'll start basic. What is employment practices, and what is fiduciary, and why is it necessary? Really, one of the most effective ways of being able to sell employment practices is being able to explain to the potential policyholder why it's so necessary. And one of the best ways to do that is to provide them relevant statistics and claims data for what we're actually seeing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the product update and the coverage enhancements that were added, as well as the target classes of what we write. And then Connor's going to show you how easy it is to phone quote. If there are any questions, please utilize that chat feature along the way, and we'll make sure to get to them. But starting basic, what is employment practices? It's going to be liability coverage for allegations of wrongful employment acts in the workplace. And there are quite a few examples on your screen there. You'll see discrimination, harassment, wrongful termination, retaliation. The reality is the actual list of ways businesses get sued just keeps getting longer and longer. There's a cottage industry out there of plaintiffs' attorneys who have become very good at not just suing the employers, but identifying potential claimants and driving the claim costs a lot higher than maybe needs to be, and that's what's getting our insureds in trouble. So your basic EPL policy is going to protect against those allegations. So it's not that we're issuing these policies expecting that every business is treating their employees like they're Harvey Weinstein and there's just sexual harassment all over the place. The reality is we live in a world where you can sue anybody for anything. Whether it has any merits is a totally different story and is going to dictate how far it goes, but it's still extremely costly to get those claims defended. We'll put some numbers to that in a minute. But that's what creates the need for employment practices in the first place. It's not that they're actually discriminating, actually harassing. It's you don't know what's going through your employees' heads. And there's a lot of different ways that can, things can change. And suddenly, you have somebody who, maybe you're about to lay off employees, which is not illegal, but it is illegal to discriminate in who you decide to lay off. So maybe, Joan Smith is going to be laid off, and all of a sudden, 6 months prior, there was a work happy hour and somebody told a joke and it was really funny then and everybody laughed, everybody talked about it in the office the next day, no one complained. But fast forward 6 months and now she's being laid off and suddenly it's sexual harassment. That is our bread and butter claim. We see all sorts of stuff like that all the time, and businesses need to be able to defend themselves against those and get them dismissed. It's still costly to do that though. So that's the EPL side. On the fiduciary side, any business that has employees and offers employee benefits is going to have a fiduciary duty arising from the decisions they make in managing those benefits. So common claims can be things like failure to monitor investment managers and administrators, payment of excessive plan fees, and regulatory action. So EPL is usually what's driving the need for a lot of these businesses, but fiduciary is something that with this product update we're able to offer as well. And we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the coverage of that in a few slides. So why is EPL so important? I've already hit bang the drum on the cost. There's an expanding interpretation of the laws where at the federal, so you have federal employment laws, state employment laws, and then local jurisdiction employment laws. And whatever is broader in benefiting the employee is the one that's going to prevail. Just because it might be federal law doesn't mean it supersedes, state law if the state law has a higher minimum wage, for example. As a result, we're seeing more claims of that as businesses are being subjected to more broader and broader restrictions within some of these laws. Increasing employee awareness. It's not uncommon. These are typically copycat claims. Usually, if somebody's being accused of discriminating or harassing against somebody, usually they didn't make a conscious decision to discriminate or harass that one person. Chances are that behavior is carrying over to other people. So if you're working with somebody who's being harassed and you're experiencing it as well, and you see they file a lawsuit, you bet you're going to quite literally follow suit. So we see quite a few copycat claims, and then the growing diversity of the workforce as the baby boomer generation is retiring or getting closer to retirement in some cases. In innocent enough cost-cutting attempts, some businesses have done things where they might make a position redundant and lay somebody off and say, we're not going to backfill this, we no longer need those services or whatever. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for them to then turn around and hire somebody who like a recent college graduate at a fraction of the cost. That is age discrimination, and that's been on the uptick for the last few years. So why don't we put some numbers to all of this? I keep saying it's expensive, or it can be expensive. So what do I mean by that? So $700 million is the amount of damages that were recovered by the EEOC at the federal level in 2024 alone. So that's like just over 20,000 discrimination allegations, and they recovered $700 million. That's a staggering figure, especially when you consider that is only at the federal level. The federal EEOC is required by law to publish their statistics, for each fiscal year. At the state and local laws, that's not always the case. And as a result, we don't have those statistics the same way we do at the federal level. But the reality is plaintiffs' attorneys are very good at identifying where they're going to file suit for a particular reason. Depending on the nature of the allegations, they may go federal because it's a better law, or state, depending on where they're located. I'm going to hop around here a little bit since we only have a short amount of time, but that 88,531 figure is the number of discrimination charges that the EEOC received in 2024. So they settled 20,000 of them for $700 million. You do that math, they still have quite a bit of work on their hands and quite a bit more money to recover in all likelihood. The $52,000 to $75,000 figure is what I was just referring to. So for frivolous claims that we define as little or no merit, and any payment will be at or near the retention, so those are frivolous claims, we're still spending between $52,000 and $75,000 in defense costs to get those dismissed. So right now we're only talking about the claims, that the frivolous ones that are going to like they read them, they laugh, and you kind of get dismissed that quickly. We're still spending upward, depending on where they're based. California is going to be a lot more expensive than Iowa, for example. 50 to 75, and then that 81% figure represents the percentage of frivolous claims that we estimated we received last year. So 8 out of every 10 claims, again, this goes to the point of, it's not that most employers treat their employees correctly. It's not that they're actively out there harassing and discriminating against, it's that we live in a society that is just very litigious, and for a lot of different reasons are likely to see this come up. So that 8 out of 10 figure, they're frivolous, and we're still spending upwards of $75,000. 30% is the number of small businesses under 500 employees that were involved in a labor dispute last year. 225,000 is the average cost to defend a claim once it goes to trial. And then the $3,200 figure at the bottom there is our average policy premium in 2024 for $1 million limit and a $5,000 retention. So we're talking about the severity of these costs, that they're copycat claims, that they tend to be frequency and not severity. So you may have several of these $50,000 to $75,000 frivolous claims. For an average of $3,200, we're able to insure them broadly against those risks. And another thing to keep in mind is we're defense outside the limit for most of our policies. I think it's about 98% of the book is defense outside, meaning it's not going to erode it either. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, scope of the update. What did we do and what changes were made? So I was just talking to a customer the other day who said something to the effect of, anytime forms are updated, it means a restriction in coverage, which kind of made me laugh, because this actually was the exact opposite. We broadened coverage in more places than we did anything else. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We have we doubled the number of retentions and limits available. So now we go up to $5 million with retentions starting at $1,000. and going up to $100,000, and it depends on the size and location of the insured for what they're eligible for. We have the ability to write EPL alone, fiduciary alone, or combine the EPL and fiduciary, and both coverages are now phone and web quotable, which we'll be getting to in a few minutes here. On the next slide, we'll talk about the optional coverages that were added, but I already touched on the retentions, web quoting, and the endorsements. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So wage and hour coverage is a big thing in the employment practices form for USLI. We offer a defense and indemnity sublimit for $100,000 defense and indemnity for violations of wage and hour claims in all states except for California and Florida. With the update, we're now extending defense only coverage to policyholders in Florida, which is new. The defense and indemnity coverage, if you remember one thing about our form when you leave the presentation today, remember how we cover the wage and hour piece. Wage and hour claims, so failure to pay minimum wage, failure to pay overtime, things like that have been a thorn in the side of our policyholders for years, going back to the early 2010s. Your average wage and hour claim isn't really going to be, so we hired defense counsel obviously to help them through the paperwork process, but there's not a lot of actual defense work involved. And what I mean by that is it's not a discrimination or harassment complaint where we have to depose people and get everybody's story and find out what's going on. If you're alleging you weren't paid overtime, it's a simple calculation. So as a result, the defense of those claims are minimal. We're talking like 10 to 20% of your average claim is going to be the defense costs. The real exposure is the back pay. Now you owe them all of that overtime back pay that you weren't paying. We are the only market that writes these types of businesses that are offering defense and indemnity. So that's that one big takeaway I want you to remember is how we handle that. So there are competitors of ours that have higher sublimits. I've seen 150 and 250, but it's defense costs only, typically with a separate retention. In a lot of cases, if we're only spending $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in defense costs for these claims, you're going to have 3 or 4 of them under those policies before anything would kick in. We also added an immigration expense supplement for about, I think it's 1% of the base rate. It's a nominal additional premium. Same thing with the workplace violence and expense endorsement. We default to a $100,000 supplement for both of those on eligible classes. The new form now includes third party in the base form itself, and then excludes it out for ineligible classes. So you don't have to worry about whether there's an additional premium or whether it's covered. It's addressed immediately right there on the quote. We increased the threshold for automatic coverage from 25 to 50% for subsidiaries acquired midterm. The insured can now have up to $10,000 of their retention forgiven under the timely notice and resolution incentive if the claim is investigated and adjudicated within the framework mentioned, within the policy. We broadened the definition of claim, wrongful employment act, harassment, discrimination, and several others. Added 4, 5, and 6 year ERP options, and then softened the hammer clause from 75-25 to 80-20. These are the highlights of the changes. We also have marketing pieces that I'll share afterwards that get into more details of everything else that changed as well. Some things that didn't change, but our form is known for and are worth mentioning. That $100,000 defense and indemnity supplement, which I already mentioned. Defense costs outside the limit. So as long as they purchase a $500,000 limit or higher and have under 200 employees, it's defense outside, except for California. Everywhere else, it's defense outside. We offer full prior acts for most claims-free classes, and then punitive damages are insurable wherever we're allowed to by law. So we basically just follow state law there. Fiduciary liability. So as I said before, this can now be phone and web quoted. The minimum premium starts at $400. This marketing piece that you see on your screen here will go out with every EPL quote that you receive so that you can just tear off that piece at the bottom, add in their plan assets and plan participants, and we can add it to the quote. Target classes. So what do we write? Where are we actually winning right now and writing good business? A lot of this is franchise business. There's the reason for that in the last few years, there's been a huge push from franchisors. Think McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, Jimmy John's, out of concerns about the legal theory of joint employer relationships and who's ultimately responsible for the employers. As a result of all of this, more and more franchisees are being required to purchase EPL, where that wasn't something that was contractually driven historically. So as a result, we have a lot of fast food restaurants, daycare centers, hair salons, auto repair, where that individual franchisee has their own EPL exposure and might have requirements where the franchisor needs to be scheduled, or they might have to have certain wage and hour coverage, and we're able to help them meet those requirements. And as a result, I'd say out of our top 10 classes, 6 or 7 of them are probably franchise related. Consultants, management consultants, technology consultants, we're kind of seeing the whole gamut there. Construction and trade, if you can remember that we don't write general contractors, we write quite literally everything that falls underneath that, under the artisan category there, and then architects, engineers, landscapers, and maintenance. Retail hospitality, we don't write full service restaurants. We do write fast food. So if there's table wait staff, that's the differentiator. And then financial and professional services, where when we start talking about these industries, it becomes more of a severity. Their concerns are more severity driven, where the average salary is going to be higher in these businesses. And therefore, when the lawsuits come in, they're going to be more severe. And then they're going to be a lot more likely to hold out for whatever it is they think they deserve, which is going to make the claim even more expensive. So they're underwritten and priced a little differently as well. I think I mentioned earlier, if I didn't, I should have. The eligibility starts at 3 employees and goes up to 500 full-time equivalent. The exception to that are law firms, where we only go up to 50 full-time equivalent. But if they do fit that 50 employee threshold, we're extremely competitive on rate, retention, and coverage, and write quite a few. I think law firms are number 3 class right now in terms of total premium. And then I'm going to skip this because the Business Resource Center, you get access. The insureds get access to this as a EPL policy holder, which gives them access to People Systems, which actually fell off the presentation, which is a third-party HR hotline and consulting website. So they can call and get free answers to HR-related questions. I'm going to hire so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z. Does that make them an exempt or a non-exempt employee? And then ideally, you're preventing that claim, before it happens. Information is always issued with the quotes as well. In terms of marketing materials and new updates, we have a new landing page that you can access. So the website is on your screen. There's also a QR code. I can send all of these to Ashley and Camille afterwards, but we have new claims examples. Sometimes those are the most effective ways of being able to sell EPL, is truly being able to provide stories about why, businesses in similar industries to your insureds have needed it. We have 14 new industry overviews where we describe, like, for fast food restaurants, what their exposures are, what that looks like, and on the backside there's claims examples. And then there's quite a bit of other things available, but take a look at that website and it's all available right there. So the new form is live. Right now we're live in 37 states. By the end of the year, we'll be live in all 48 that USLI writes in. We don't write in Louisiana or West Virginia. Basically we're live in all of the big important states except for New York right now. There's a handful of states across the like Pacific Northwest, and then a couple in New England where we're still working through the filings. We write EPL in those states. It's just on the form that we've been using since 2007. The new one is live in all the states that you see there. All right, at this point, I'm going to kick it over to Connor.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. And once again, thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. If anyone does have any questions about any of the content that Chris just covered, please feel free to utilize the chat box, and we can answer those questions for you. But with that, really just wanted to take some time to finish up today. Oops, I might need to just reshare this. Sorry about that, folks. But with that, as I mentioned, we really just wanted to take some time to go in and show you just how easy it is to quote these products both over the phone and web here with USLI through Apogee. Chris, do you mind just resharing the presentation on your end? I'm not sure why it's not letting me share. Awesome. So phone and web quoting with USLI and Apogee. So to boil it down, it really is the quickest and easiest way to get a quote. As an Apogee agent, you have access to their dedicated phone number, that being 888-845-1637, where you can dial in and be connected to our team of over 90 underwriters here at USLI who are ready to assist you. From then, they ask you some key rating and information questions in order to generate a premium. What's nice is following the call, the underwriter will email you a copy of the quote directly, along with a pre-filled application with any information that our team receives. So if this is something that your applicant wants to move forward with, you can just use that pre-filled application to verify, sign, and send over to Apogee. Now, we are just one of the many markets that you have access to through Apogee. So if there's something that we can't quote here at USLI, what we'll do is we'll refer you back over to their team for help with some of their other markets. That's really the phone quoting portion. What's great is if you're somebody that likes web quoting as well, you have the ability to go online through the Apogee website and quote our EPL as well as many other products right over the web. Would you mind going to the next slide, Chris? So right here today, we're just going to do a demonstration. While I call in and show you just how easy it is to quote our EPL product, I'd like to highlight on the next slide all of our products that are available to quote over the phone and web here at USLI. As Chris mentioned, the EPL product is something that is phone and web eligible, but as you can see, there's also many other products that you can call in or quote online with us. So if there is anything here on your desk today, please feel free to give a call in and we're more than happy to help. But with that, I will get us connected with an underwriter. Hey, Judy, you still there?
I sure am.
Awesome. So we're with our friends over at Apogee today and just looking to get an EPLI quote.
Oh, sure. We can do that. Connor, let's start with the state that it's located in.
So this is going to be in Pennsylvania.
Okay. And what type of risk is this?
This is for an insurance agency.
Oh, okay. There we go. All righty. And can you give me the address?
So they're at 123 Main Street, and this is in Wayne, Pennsylvania, zip code 19087.
Thank you for that. Perfect. All righty. Now, I do need to get some information on the employees. How many full-time employees do they have?
There are 5 full-time.
Okay. And Connor, any part-time?
2.
Okay. And do they have any temporary, seasonal, independent, or any leased employees?
They do not at this time.
Okay. And Connor, do you know if they currently carry EPL coverage?
Nope. This would be a first-time buyer.
Perfect. Now, are you aware or are they aware of any fact or circumstance that a suit, a claim, anything may arise in the future?
None at this time.
Okay. And they're claims-free, correct?
Yep.
All right. All right, and that about wraps it up. And bear with me 1 second here, and I'll be able to pull up that premium. So what I'm going to do, Connor, is send over a copy of the quote, which we're going to talk about, as well as a pre-filled application. Okay? So the quote's going to be with United States Liability Insurance Company, and this is also going to be on admitted paper. It comes with an AM best rating for USLI of A++, which is a superior rating. We are also offering 6 payments of direct billing. So if the client elects to do the payment plan with us, you do not have to collect any money up front. We'll invoice them directly. So we make it really easy. Now, in terms of the quote, we have options from $250,000 all the way up to $2 million. Do you know what they're looking for?
The 1 million limit.
Okay, so for 1 million with a 10,000 retention, we're looking at 1,158.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now we can firm it up with the additional underwriting questions, or Connor, I can send it right over to you if you'd like.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just sending that over, that would be great.
All right, I'll get it going here. Anything else I can help you out with today?
That should be it for today. But thank you, Judy. Really appreciate your help.
Oh, you're welcome. Listen, have a great day.
Yep, same to you.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. So as you can see, in just a couple minutes, we were able to call in, get connected with an underwriter, and get a firm quote right then and there. So, as I mentioned, for EPLI business, even if this is something that you're trying to cross-sell with some of your other accounts, we'd definitely love to take a look at that, and our instant quote team would love to help. So, Chris, would you mind going to the next slide? So one last thing that I'd like to mention is our online underwriting resolution. So as I mentioned, you do have access to the web quoting platform that's live on the Apogee website. What's great is we do have a web chat feature on there as well. So that is going to be the same team of underwriters that is answering the phone here at USLI. So if you do run into any underwriting issues or questions, you can quickly web chat with that team in order to get help in real time. One more slide, Chris. Awesome. And that's it for us here today. As I mentioned, we'd love to see what we can help with in regards to quoting this business or anything else that might be on your desk. But with that, I did see we got a question from Terry. Chris, would you just mind answering that?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up now.
Perfect.
I'm actually not able to see it on my end. Oh, here we go.
No problem. I can just read it. So it's, oh, you got it.
Yeah. All right. It was a little hidden. How does at-will employment come into play for wrongful termination when the wording of the employment agreement say that they can let you go for any reason? Do those actually get to litigation? Are they usually one loss? That's a very, very good question. So at-will employment is common. I forget the exact number of states, but it's more than half of the states in the U.S. have at-will employment. In the context of employment practices and what we're talking about, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. And what I mean by that is you can be an at-will employee. It is still illegal to discriminate and harass an at-will employee. And whether or not they have that at-will or status or not only means that the business can terminate that employee, quote unquote, at will. But if you think about it, you're quite literally just digging your own grave. I mean, if you're the employer at that point, if you do that, you're retaliating against the person who made the complaint in the first place. So that's only going to add to the argument that's being made. The at-will does come up a lot in litigation, but not so much that it means that they're immune from discrimination or harassment, if that makes sense. I think that was the only one I saw. If there's any others, I'm happy to answer them. Or my email and phone number on the screen too. Alrighty.
Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. So thanks again, everyone, for your time today. Really appreciate it. As Chris mentioned, his email and extension are up on the screen. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to give a call over to Chris or Instant Quote team, and we'll be ready to help you further with this. So thank you, everyone.